Hey there, guys and girls. Welcome back to the Destinations channel. I'm Sal.
And I'm Debbie. And today we're going to talk about disabilities and on being on cruise ships.
And whether you just have a food allergy all the way to a complete immobility, this is the video you're going to watch. It's going to be a complete guide to traveling with disabilities. And we'll be back right after this. Welcome back and thanks for staying through the intro. As always, if you're new to our channel, we ask you to please hit the subscribe button and make sure you click that little bell notification so YouTube will let you know every time we upload a brand new video.
And once again, today we're talking about disabilities and being on a cruise ship.
And we're going to go through all the disabilities you could possibly imagine, but to make it a little easier for you, we are going to put time codes on the screen right now so you can look for your disability and where you think you might match up. We'll also put the time codes in the description down below. Let's talk about your cabin. You've decided to book your cruise. The cruise ships do have handicap accessible cabins. Now those cabins are going to have things like no step to get through your doorway to make it a little easier if you're in a mobility device. The doorways are a little wider and in areas of the cruise ship where you don't have to turn to get into them, making it easy to get into. Also, your restrooms are going to have railings and things of that nature, just making it a little easier for you to get around the cabin itself.
And just keep in mind that those cabins are very limited on some of these ships. There's as few as 5. So if you do have a disability and you do need a disability cabin, make sure you book that early.
Absolutely, because they can and do sell out. Accessibility cabins on all the cruise lines are on a first come, first served basis. So you want to book that cruise as early as possible. Now, this is a good time to take a quick break and say that we specialize in Carnival Cruise Lines. So some of the phone numbers and extensions we're going to give you today, and even some of the policies are specific to Carnival. However, most of the cruise lines have an equivalent policy for the cruise lines that sail out of the United States. Now, one important thing, if you want to get that handicap accessible cabin, you're going to go onto carnival.com or through your travel advisor, or you can even call us at 330-968-4300 and our Carnival concierge will help you book that cruise. But you're going to want to book a regular cabin and then call Carnival's guest access department. That's the department that's going to let Carnival know what kind of disability you have, and they can usually upgrade you to an accessible cabin at no charge if there's one available from the one that you booked. But then, as I said before, you can also call your travel advisor, or you can even contact us and we can take care of that for you. Again, our phone number is 330-968-4300, and that's on the screen right now.
Next, we're going to talk about mobility scooters. If you have a hard time getting around, it might be wise to look into getting a mobility scooter for on the ship.
Absolutely. And all modern cruise ships are handicap accessible now. Very few cruise ships have areas where you can't get with a mobility scooter. Now, I know on some of the newer cruise ships, there's some of the real high deck, like the sports deck, on some of the ships that might not have access for a scooter, but somebody with mobility is probably going to want that deck anyhow. But most cruise ships, modern cruise ships, are handicap accessible, and you'll find a mobility scooter is a great way to get around. Now, you can either bring your own or you can rent a mobility scooter. We actually have a deal with Scootaround, which is a fantastic company. They will bring the mobility scooter directly to the cruise ship. It'll be ready when you're about to board. And then at the end, you simply leave it at the dock and they come pick it up as well. The company is Scootaround, and I will put a link to them in the description down below. Ship accessibility, we're going to touch briefly upon this since we already touched upon it when we talked about the scooter rental. Most modern cruise ships are accessible for handicap, meaning they have level floors and lots of elevators. Almost all modern cruise ships have 3 banks of elevators, one in the forward, one in the aft, and one directly in the middle of the cruise ship, making it extremely easy to get around. Even the tenders to get off the boat in certain ports, if you're not familiar with a tender is a small boat that you get on from the cruise ship that will take you to land in tender ports, as opposed to getting off and just getting right on a pier. Even have access now for mobility scooters and handicap accessible folks. Anything from blind, etc., you're going to find that the ship is there to help you and is accessible for you.
Let's talk about special dietary needs. If you have a special dietary need, if you let the cruise ship know in advance, they will absolutely do whatever they can to accommodate you.
Absolutely. Again, this is one of those things you're going to want to call guest access if you book directly through Carnival or the equivalent for the cruise line that you booked upon. You're going to let them know of your needs at least 14 days in advance so that they have time to communicate with the ship. Again, you can also let your travel advisor know, or you can give us a call at 330-968-4300, especially if you're with Carnival, because we have access to all those people, including the maitre d's, friends of ours on board the cruise ship, to make sure that your needs are met. But dietary needs are extremely important and will be handled according to your specialty. Do you have special sensory needs that you need taken care of? Loud noises, do they bother you, or a large amount of people? The cruise lines have partnered with a lot of organizations to help make those needs good for you. Carnival themselves have partnered with Culture City to provide you access and things that you will want to make your cruise even better. So let Carnival know in advance, your travel advisor, or again, even us at our concierge travel agency, and we'll make sure that your sensory needs are taken care of.
Let's talk about animals on board. So any registered service dog is allowed on board. Comfort animals are not. So if you have any registered animal, you can bring them on board. They will actually help you find out where to take them to relieve themselves and where you can take them to play. In fact, sometimes they'll give you times where you can go into the basketball area and let the animals stretch their legs.
A funny story about that. We have a good friend, Deborah Wright. We brought her service dog on board for her. And the dog went up and was playing basketball with the crew during one of the basketball games. And the crew absolutely love it. They even couldn't score a point because every time they threw the ball, the dog would grab the ball from them.
Yes, she did.
Now, service dogs are an interesting animal. If you have one, you probably already know this, but you're going to want to coordinate very well with guest access if you're on Carnival or the cruise line of your choice that you're going on, because every port of call that you're going to is going to require different paperwork and different vaccinations in order for you to even board that cruise ship if it's stopping in those ports of call. And you want to take care of that long in advance so you have plenty of time to prepare, because sometimes you're going to have to communicate with each of those countries to get them approved to be on board.
Right.
Again, we'd like to take care of all that for you. So if you have a service dog in particular and you want to take all of that out of your hands, give us a call at our concierge agency and we will be happy to get your seeing eye dog all their paperwork and make sure they're all squared away.
Well, and sometimes there are in certain ports, you have to have other special shots and things like that. Yeah. And they can charge you extra to get off of that port. So sometimes if you don't have the right documents, they can actually say that you can't get off.
And there's some ports that even once they approve you, they charge a port fee to get off with your service dog as well. Again, we'll help you navigate those waters, or if you're with Carnival, guest access will help you navigate those waters as well. Really quick, for those that are hearing impaired, most cruise ships will have a sign language person that can help you with your sign language or even hearing devices to help you hear even better. Again, for all of these, make sure you contact guest access with Carnival at 1-800-CARNIVAL or your travel advisor or our concierge agency in advance so we can make sure those are taken care of for you. Next, we're going to talk about bringing prescription medication on board. All medications are allowed on board. However, I would strongly recommend that you bring your medication in an original manufacturer's package or in the actual package or bottle that your pharmacist gives you, especially if you're bringing prescription narcotics on board, such as Vicodin, Percocet, or any of those. Because they don't always, but they can ask you about that prescription when you bring them on board. For instance, Carnival now is having drug-sniffing dogs randomly on the cruise ship to make sure you're not bringing anything on that you're not supposed to. If you're bringing diabetic medication on board, you definitely want to make sure you let the Carnival guest access know, or the other cruise line you might be booking with, or your travel agency or our Carnival concierge service know, because first of all, we can make sure that you have refrigeration needs. Now keep in mind that most modern cruise lines do have a refrigerator inside your cabin. But those refrigerators are not designed for medications. They're not kept at the temperature that your medication is probably going to need. So most likely you're going to want to keep your diabetic medication either at guest services or at the medical unit on board the ship, which you'll have access to when you need to take your medication. And we can also make sure a sharps container is also put in your room at no charge so that nobody gets stuck by a needle that they're not supposed to. Now, one thing I want to go over is prescription marijuana.
I was just going to ask about that because you had said that all prescriptions were allowed, but that is kind
Marijuana
of a
is the exception to the rule. Even if you have a prescription for marijuana, even if marijuana is legal where you live, or even if it's legal at the port of call you're sailing out of, marijuana on board a cruise ship is 100% illegal.
And they are cracking down on it.
They
now.
absolutely are. Not only will it be confiscated, you could be put off the ship when it's found out at your expense to find a way home. Cruise ships have to go with international law. And as of right now, in the United States, as far as federal law and international law, marijuana is still illegal. Therefore, there's no cruise lines right now that sail out of the United States that will allow marijuana or any marijuana products. So leave all that at home. See your doctor in advance for an alternate therapy. That way you can enjoy your cruise and not risk your cruise or risk getting put off board in a port of call to find your own way home.
Now let's talk about crew training and disabilities. Any crew member that you may come across is trained in helping you with any disability that you might have. So if you have an issue come up and you have a disability, you can go to any crew member that you see.
That's right. All forward-facing crew members, meaning crew members that you could possibly interact with, are all trained to help with all kinds of disabilities. So if you have any issue, find the closest crew member, tell them you need help, and they will absolutely find you the right place and the right person to take care of your needs. Okay, let's talk about tender boarding.
Well, they're actually called water shuttles now, I believe.
Yes, some people call them water shuttles, some call them water taxis. It's the boat you're going to get on in some ports that don't dock at an actual dock that will take you from your ship to your port of call. And those water shuttles now are almost all handicap accessible. And usually you're going to want to go make sure you contact guest services the night before your port, because there's usually a special place for those with disability needs to meet, so that you have front of the line access and extra time to get onto the shuttle. Okay, let's talk about ports of call that you might visit. And unfortunately, this is the bad news. A lot of these countries you're going to be visiting are not really up to the standards that the United States is as far as handicap accessibility. So make sure you do your homework in advance on the port of call that you might be visiting to know whether or not it's worth taking that water shuttle to go into town, or worth getting off at the dock, because some of these ports may not be accessible for you to actually enjoy your visit.
Okay, let's talk shore excursions. So before you ever book a shore excursion, it gives you a definition of what the excursion is, tells you what the level of difficulty, yes, that's a good way of putting it, is, and it tells you what, if you have difficulties with some things and not others, then maybe some excursions may be better for you than others. And if you have any questions on what excursions might be better for you with your disability, just head down to the shore excursion desk and they can actually help you out and guide you toward what might be best for you.
So our final thoughts and final tips for you is really, no matter what your disability, as I said, book early. The earlier you book, the better chance you're going to have of getting a handicap accessible cabin. Contact the cruise line early. Give them at least enough notice to find you that cabin, or to get in touch with the ship to make sure that your necessity or your needs are able to be taken care of. If you contact, for instance, guest access the night before your cruise, well, they're not going to have time to email back and forth to the ship to make sure that what you need will be accessible to you.
Well, so, let alone not even to the ports of call.
Yeah. So at least, at a bare minimum, you want to contact your cruise line at least 14 days prior to your sailing to let them know what your necessity is. Any other thoughts that you have?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for watching. We are the Destinations channel. I'm Sal.
And I'm Debbie.
And again, before you go, make sure you click that subscribe button and the little bell notification so YouTube will let you know every time we upload a brand new video. And be on the lookout. In the next couple of days, we're going to be announcing our annual group cruise, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. We'll see you next time right here on the Destinations channel.